Mary Skelter is one of the few dungeon RPG series I've been able to really get into and enjoy. I'm not a huge fan of that subgenre of RPGs, but I do love the dark and crazy world of Mary Skelter. I recently went through and covered Mary Skelter's 1 and 2 in preparation for the saga's conclusion. It's finally here and we've got a lot to talk about. Here is my review of Mary Skelter Finale for the Nintendo Switch. Before really diving in, let's do a spoiler warning. This is the third of the trilogy and there's no getting around spoiling the ending to the first game. So before going into those spoilers, it's worth noting that Finale contains a before story section that has all cutscenes from Mary Skelter's 1 and 2. They're not voiced and have to be read, but it does contain all of the story if you're a newcomer to the series. But here's your spoiler warning. Skip ahead about 1 minute and 20 seconds if you haven't completed Mary Skelter Nightmares to the true ending. Finale picks up right where 1 left off. Jack, Alice, Atsu, Little Mermaid, and the rest of the Dawn are ascending from the underground to the surface. But instead of finding an escape from the nightmare, they find a destroyed world with a nightmarish tower of flesh floating in the skies. To make matters worse, a group of powerful girls known as Massacre Pink arrive on the scene to kill them. Narrowly escaping with their lives, they find themselves separated and severely injured in the many jail towers on the surface. They choose to fight once again to regroup and to take down their new enemies. I think the story was good overall. There were some areas where I felt Alice and some of the others were a little out of character, and Gretel's English dub actor performed the role very differently than from the first 2 games, but I enjoyed how the story turned out. When it comes to gameplay, Finale is a dungeon RPG. Throughout your adventure, you're going to trek through dungeons in first person, solving the puzzle-filled mazes and fighting enemies in turn-based combat. First of all, Finale has 2 games built into it. You have the Mary Skelter Finale RPG that concludes the trilogy, but we've also got the spin-off romance visual novel, Mary Skelter Locked Up in Love. This was originally a pre-order bonus for the PS4 version of Mary Skelter 2. It's finally been brought to the West for the first time, along with us getting free DLC for the Locked Up in Love true ending. And that true ending was a bit of a controversy over in Japan, as it was exclusive to people who pre-ordered. While I would prefer it to just be built into the game itself, getting it as free DLC instead of a locked out of it if you don't pre-order is a much better situation for the West. One final thing to talk about before really diving in is fan service and censorship. If you recall, Mary Skelter 2 did not get a Western release on the PlayStation 4, but Finale did. The likely reason we got a PS4 release this time around was because CompileHeart didn't bring back the purification rubbing minigame. Be it in North America, Europe, or Japan, Finale just didn't bring that back. But onto the game itself. The basic premise for gameplay is the same as 1 and 2. You've got dungeons to explore as well as a base of operations where you can go through facilities to upgrade equipment or visit the girls' rooms for story scenes and giving them gifts. But that's not to say everything is the same, as Finale did add new elements and depth to the mix. The dungeon crawling isn't too much different, with the maze-like dungeon floors, random encounters with enemies, levers and character skills to open doors and get past traps, and nightmare bosses that will occasionally chase you around. What makes it different is the fact that the story has the group being separated, and that means we have not 1 party trekking through the dungeons, but 3. The parties have their own characters, inventory, and base of operations, and you can swap between which party you're controlling at any given time. This is embedded into the puzzle solving, as all 3 of these parties will be trekking through the same dungeon but in different areas. Levers that Jack's party will find often open up new areas for Clara or Toad's parties. Finale also has a connected item box mechanic where you can find keys that other parties need, dump them into the box, and that party can get it from their own box. The parties will also have to work together in separate areas to take down each dungeon's nightmare. The dungeons only have 1 boss, but that boss will chase all 3 parties around, and you'll often find multiple boss cores for each party to take out before said boss can be defeated. This gives you more to do, but also a choice on which party you want to use to fight the boss with. Not to mention the convenience of keeping one of your parties next to a save point, so when Jack finds a boss that he's about to fight, you can swap to the other party, save your progress, and swap back. But this also means that you're essentially trekking through each dungeon 3 separate times. The longer feel creates a bit of imbalance, especially during Chapter 2. There's so much to explore and so much puzzle solving to do that you can easily go 3 to 4 hours without seeing a single story scene. The balance improves later on, but it's really noticeable in that earlier chapter. Next up is combat and difficulty. The battle system hasn't really changed that much. You've still got turn-based combat, the ability to change your job class, develop skills, and the auto battle system to make grinding a little bit easier. But they did change some of the character classes. Hamlin, for example, no longer has the ability to be a physical attacker. Her fighter class from Mary Skelter 2 is gone, and none of the jobs available allow her to use any of the big physical weapons like the Sakura Maiden job from Mary Skelter 1 did. The main new feature for combat is the Insect Mare status ailment. It's a bit difficult to get rid of and will prevent you from doing certain battle commands. Speaking of difficult, Mary Skelter has always been more casual friendly than other dungeon RPGs, though Finale ramps that up with the dangers of these new jail towers on the surface. The game starts out fairly easy, but ramps it up quickly once you get to chapters 2 and 3. Even if you bump it down to the easy difficulty, you won't be finishing this game without good knowledge of swapping classes and leveling from time to time. Pretty much all of this comes together well, and that will bring us to content and length. Assuming you skip the before story recaps, Finale will take you a good 40 to 50 hours to trek through with a few more hours added in from that spin-off visual novel. Next up is presentation. Graphically, it's not that different from 2, which looked pretty decent on its own. We still get some blurring in handheld mode, but nothing too severe. When it comes to performance, it's good, but not great. If you recall from Mary Skelter 2, that game's temple dungeon gave you some frame drops and stutters when you were wandering around the maze. Most of the dungeons in Mary Skelter Finale do the same thing. It's not super crazy and the game doesn't crash, but you will get some pretty frequent frame drops when moving around those mazes. Next up is battery life. On the original model, Mary Skelter Finale gives us a battery range of 1 hour and 52 minutes up to 2 hours and 49. The Nintendo Switch Lite gets 3 hours and 21 minutes up to 4 hours and 41. And the Redbox or V2 2019 model gets a range of 5 hours and 9 up to 6 hours and 18. In conclusion, Finale brings the Dungeon RPG series to a close and makes the Nintendo Switch the only handheld and platform to house the entire series in the West. Now on the downside, there are some imbalanced areas and performance issues when dungeon trekking, but fans of the series will enjoy the series' conclusion and the adorable romantic VN that was finally brought to the West. Reviews to go rates Mary Skelter Finale for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.